Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself George bringing a brand new review, and today I'm going to be talking about Ballad of a Small Player, which is now streaming around the world on Netflix, and I'm here to give my thoughts on the film. And I'm going to kickstart this straight away with saying this is our first non-London Film Festival review since I think Tron, which feels like a million years ago at this point in time. It's been an incredibly busy time on the channel. I know the last video went up on Sunday just gone. It's felt a lot sooner than Sunday that there's been videos. It's been very, very busy indeed. So a massive thank you to everybody new and old that's watching our channel. If you've enjoyed these reviews, there's a lot of them on a playlist on the homepage. They'll cover the next few months. I'll be sharing shorts from them. But we are nice to get back on track with normal reviews. I say normal reviews. This is a film that premiered at the festival but was not one I was able to see at the festival. So I'm going to be talking about my experience seeing that today. Now it's streaming on Netflix. I'm talking about the director, a few other things, and I'll be announcing the next review we'll be doing at the end of this video today. So with that being said, I want to talk about my thoughts heading into this film. I really like Edward Berger, the director. I know he's linked with James Bond at one point this year. Obviously, that's not happening. It's gone to Denis Villeneuve, which we're very excited for. But I really liked All Quiet on the Western Front. I really liked Conclave, and his next film's going to start Collin Farrell, and I was like, great, I'm on board. He's done two great films in a row. I've enjoyed both of them. I'll be seeing his next one. So that did lead me to this. I didn't see it at the cinema. I know it did limited screenings, as some Netflix films do. I did rewatch Frankenstein, but yes, with the festival, it just didn't work out for me. So I was somewhat excited to see this, if I'm allowed to say so myself, that it's not always the easiest to not want to go to the cinema. When you've seen 14, 15 films in the cinema in 4 days, and this one's showing as well, but it's out the way, it's back at home, and you know it's on Netflix within a week. I am going to wait for that. And that kind of not necessarily epitomises my thoughts on the film, but it's something that I sort of made me struggle somewhat. And that kind of leads me to talking into, oh God, I feel like I've got fatigue. I don't, but I just feel zoned out ever so slightly. So it's my weird review to do this one. But the synopsis from IMDb for this is: when his past and his debts start to catch up with him, a high-stakes gambler laying low in Macau encounters a kindred spirit who might just hold the key to his salvation. Quite mystical. And if I talk about my experiences going into this film, as well as I mentioned with that synopsis, I didn't see the trailers, I didn't know what to expect. I knew there was a bit about gambling, they'd seen interviews with them before. I knew obviously it's Edward Berger, I saw it, I knew it was a book. I knew nothing except from that. So that made me a bit more interested to see it today. I did watch it first thing, not 8 o'clock on the dot when they dropped, but I did watch it this morning. And I've got to say my initial impressions that this film didn't work for me, which is a real shame. This was a film, as I said, I was looking forward to seeing. It's got a very good director. It's got an incredible lead actor, who I love seeing Collin Farrell in so many of the projects he picks these days as well. He's such a unique actor with how he works, what he chooses to do, the directors he's working with. But this film just didn't hit any highs for me, and it unfortunately felt like quite a predictable song piece, especially when you're bringing in something such as gambling. That's something I don't care for outside of, not the film industry, but I just don't care for gambling in my own life. I know what gambling debts and that can do to people, and to do a story on someone with a crippling gambling depression, sorry, not depression, a gambling addiction, it's interesting to see that on camera, and I just don't think I was ever invested too much in this. And when the story got to certain storytelling points, which I'll get to later, I'm not going to do spoilers, it just felt so easily predictable and left me just feeling a bit blunt with the film itself. And I don't know if that's an intention, I don't know if it's not, but I unfortunately had no reaction to this film, which is a shame given how much I enjoyed Edward Berger's two previous films. You know, I'm not religious, yet I loved Conclave. I'm obviously not a soldier, I loved All Quiet on the Western Front. Don't need to have those experiences to align with those films, but this one for me, I didn't get a kick out of anything. And maybe it is post-festival blues, maybe I've seen too many films, maybe the quality of films I've seen is quite higher at the moment. I don't know, I don't want to come across as snobby, but I don't think this is a film people will be talking about in the future. And if I talk about the direction of this, the directing was competent as it was. It just felt very straightforward. There was nothing beyond what was expected. And I say that in a really awkward way. Maybe because I'm looking at his other two films. I've not seen Edward Berger's previous films before those, but I didn't care for the directions. It didn't feel like anything special. Not calling him an auteur early, but it didn't feel like there was any signature touch. It didn't feel like there was any personalization, it just felt like this was a generic film that a great many people could have directed. Now, I don't know the source material. I don't know if he was anticipated to do this for years or it just fell into place. He's cranked this out within a year of his last film coming out, which was remarkable, which has took on a life of its own with the real life Conclave we had earlier this year. But the direction for me, it was nothing special. It didn't utilise Macau, which is a beautiful place. And I just sort of felt a bit glum. And again, is that an intention because of what the character's going through? I don't know. But I was just sort of sat there like, how do you make shooting in these sort of locations look incredibly boring? And unfortunately, it did. They didn't feel anything special about the locations, the casinos, the tables. It just felt so humdry, like an episode of TV, which was a real shame. And that kind of leads me talking about the cast as well. We've got Collin Farrell in the lead playing Lord Doyle. Collin Farrell, who we know is a great actor. Obviously, he's won the Emmy for Penguin this year, Golden Globe too, I think, from memory. And we know he's so great at performances with accents. His character, Lord Doyle, in this is questionable. That's an intention from the get-go. Do you trust him? Do you believe him? Is he lying? Is he not? I like those kind of things. I like the intensity you can get with gambling addiction on certain characters, or when you're watching, it's not gambling addiction, but when you're looking at things like poker, card games, people are going to think of Casino Royale. He was believable in that Macau setting, that it was an all or nothing personality, and I do think the best part of this film was Collin Farrell's performance due to that. I think the, not expressions he has in it, but what is on the line for his character, he is great at dealing with that. And when certain story developments happen where characters disappear or come back, how he sells those feels really genuine, authentic, and he is quite likeable. And there's not too many likeable characters in this one, but he is one of them. Granted, he's not a good person. You are seeing him repeating those same mistakes of the past. At times it makes you uncomfortable, it makes you feel a little bit sick, but he is able to deliver with that still. So I've got to say, Collin Farrell was a standout for me in this. I love seeing him in films, and I'd love to see him work with Edward Berger again, because he's been promoting this everywhere. He's been speaking about this film for a while. Maybe under better circumstances this could have been different, but it was just a bit disappointing for me in that respect. Then we've got Tilda Swinton in this, who I think is actually wasted. She's playing a private detective called Cynthia in this. It's a weird performance. We know with Tilda Swinton you can get weird. You also know how great she is as a performer. There's just a character here lacking any depth or nuance, and it felt like we need someone a bit quirky, so let's put a quirky actor in, but let's not develop that character. Let's keep them at a baseline, two-dimensional. You're thinking every time she's on scene something's going to happen, something's going to change because it's Tilda Swinton, but unfortunately nothing does change due to that. And yeah, if she feels a bit wasted, if I'm honest. There's not the source material there for her to really have a good time with, and for that to translate into a character on screen. I just don't think anyone matched the level that Collin Farrell had as Lord Doyle, who was just more interesting as a character, as he should be as the protagonist. But unfortunately, that leaves the film lacking for me, and it's kind of what I think with this film, that what did work for me, well, the lead performance absolutely did. If I'm frank, not much else. I didn't care for the score. I mentioned I thought the setting felt quite dry, yet we know it's not a dry location at all. Even the gambling side of things, I've seen films recently like Hard 8 for the first time, the PTA film, or you look at stuff like Goodfellas, you look at Casino, where it is underground, and I know that's me dropping Scorsese films, but it didn't feel like we got to utilise what a crime underworld could be, or what goes on behind these tables or with these tables. And I just felt the film was lacking, and if somebody else was in charge, maybe that could have been more interesting. If there was a different approach to the film, if it was shot differently, maybe that would be better. But unfortunately, it just sort of left me feeling quite flat. I thought the story was very predictable, as I said, and I don't mind a predictable storyline. It's the story that is key in that, and there was nothing really shaping that story outside of Collin Farrell that just left me a bit very middle of the ground. And that kind of leads me on to my final thoughts on this film. What did I think of this? Do I recommend this film? Well, it's streaming on Netflix, and this is where it's so weird doing Netflix. I've not done them for quite a while, respectively, when it's not at a cinema, but I always go with the recommendation, should you go and see this film? I can't tell you to go out your way to watch this at the cinema, because it's out of cinemas now. I wouldn't be telling you to go and see this in cinema. I would be saying, if you want to watch this film, wait for it on Netflix. And where I kind of lie with that now over seeing this film is, there's really no point to watch this film unless you're a fan of the talent involved. If you're a fan of the talent involved, you might be wanting to watch it anyway. But personally, I was a bit disappointed by this film. I think this was not necessarily hyped up, but I think off the back of Conclave, off the back of All Quiet on the Western Front, it is a disappointing follow-up to them. Not that it is trying to follow them up, but it is just the director's next film. And for that basis, for lacking the scenery, the story, the devices, the gambling, the underworld, I'm not intertwined to jump out and say, go see this film at the cinema. Well, obviously not the cinema, go see it on streaming. But if you've got nothing else to watch and you're desperate to see something on streaming, Frankenstein's out next Friday. I won't be recommending this to anyone past next Friday. So my review from this is, only really see this if you need to see this, if you want to see this. If you're really in that perspective, I'm sure you've already seen it. If you haven't, if you're curious, then by all means try it, but don't go in thinking you're going to get those great follow-ups to those. So it's a weird review for me to do. I don't feel too comfortable in this review. It feels like I've just sort of crapped on the film for 10 minutes. So no idea how this is going to come out in post, especially being the first post-film festival review. I've had a bit of time to think about this, yet it feels like I've struggled with this. I've not took that much time off. I've just not done a review for a week. But yeah, what is coming next though for the channel? We'll be doing a review for Begonia on Saturday. That's out in cinemas this Friday. I didn't see that at the festival as well, so I've been able to talk about it finally, having seen it. I'm excited to see that film. It looks very curious from the trailer, so there'll be a review out for that. We're planning some big stuff for November, so there'll be more things to announce in the coming weeks. And when we do, they'll be on our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky. All of those things, link in the description will take you there. So that is me rounding out this review. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.